Thank you for watching this. I'm Dr. Max Schuppach, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Deep Democracy Institute.
Hello!
Hey guys! Hey, welcome! Hi.
Max, our Russian team wants to ask you just one question today. We feel the world is in a difficult and painful spot. We see all these wars daily on TV. We see power abuse. Sometimes it feels very helpless. What can we as human beings and facilitators do about it all? What do you think?
In many groups, you have mainstream. I mean by mainstream, a group that supports the status quo. And let's call another role frequently an activist. An activist is a person who goes against the status quo, frequently wants to change the status quo, and frequently, depending on the spectrum of the radicality of it, wants a radical and quick change of the status quo. Frequently in there you find also like a spiritual role. By spiritual role I mean a role that forwards detachment, meaning why do you get so involved in all of these conflicts? The activist thinks the problem is the conservative role who won't let go of the status quo. They're less likely to understand that that role, the conservative role, has a deeper essence level, which means without always being explicit or even conscious about it, they want to support and forward pride in ancestry, tradition, and long-term values of a community. But while at the same time, the conservative role doesn't quite often doesn't understand or follow that behind the activist is not just someone who wants to overturn the system, ruin what's working, and strive for the power that they don't have. But in the background is an idealistic vision of a future that works better than the status quo at the moment. And the status quo role forgets that how they got to the status quo in the first place was that futuristic vision at one point was supported and got them to the status quo. So both groups fight what a lot of people think is a fight over power, but from our perspective it's a fight over awareness. What is really behind these roles and what is really behind these positions? The same is true for the spiritual role, who is trying to see all of this in a larger, eternal / timeless context, who is trying to find universal rules, be it science, be it religion, be it what your personal ideas of time and spaceless realities, and are helping people or supporting people to understand that they themselves have a life, an individual life, that they don't have to be just a victim of the world, but they can also go beyond that through personal, spiritual, and emotional development. Now, as a deep democracy facilitator, we think that deep democracy means that all of this, the role structures in the background that have meaning, the conflicts in the foreground where people struggle over power, and the deeper eternal meaning of conflicts in a time spirit, a zeitgeist as a whole, need to get their space, their time. If these were three major elders in a parliament, they each should have a voice over time, so that the community / family / world becomes more wholesome. Now, the important part in what we do is we don't feel as facilitators that we have to come and establish this, or we have to preach that, or we have to prescribe behavior so people get there. We have to think all we need to do is to help facilitate these relationships. And in our view, conflicts, even violent conflicts, are beginning ways of relating with each other. So we're one, in my mind, few groups that are not against conflicts. We're not even against wars. Also, we sympathize and feel bad for all the victims in it. So obviously, we want to be part of making it better and stopping it. But by just saying people who have wars or who are involved in violent conflict are not developed and stupid, we actually support it because we polarize that whole process. We're trying to understand it and meet people where they are at, and by facilitating interaction between these roles, the whole system can eventually change. And you don't just have a rotational system change where one role gets filled, then there is an overthrow, the other role gets filled, there's an overthrow back. That's also a way of progressing, but facilitation and relationship between the roles facilitates it, makes it easier, speeds it up, therefore less painful, less work, less costs, less effort. So that's the approach that we are using. I'm very optimistic about the world. I think the world is polarized. We have a lot of challenges ahead of us. So, man, you want to look for challenges, this is certainly a time for it. At the same time, my belief is that the world has never been better prepared and is in a better place to deal with it. We human beings have developed amazing scientific possibilities. We have unheard of communication chances and possibilities across the globe between communities. So many people in the globe know somebody somewhere with a cell phone and have access to some sort of information. We have so many diverse thinkers, elders, contributors that contribute to an overall solution finding. We have so many efforts worldwide of groups that are trying to work on how to bring more relationships and how to make people's lives easier. And those general global challenges, I'm convinced, will eventually create more cohesion and draw us together as a global community to deal with these challenges and solve them. Not just solve them in terms of outer solutions, but by solving them, get to know who are we really, and can we be both global thinking citizens and truly proud of our own ethnic identities, our own traditions and our own values that have gotten us to where we are today as a humanity. What allows me to be optimistic and think that's going to happen, apart from what I said, I'm so grateful for Mindel's work, who shows that in science, in psychology, in indigenous wisdom, in religious beliefs, you find a general consensus that the universe / God / communities are self-balancing. Symmetries are a big part of today's understanding of the universe in modern physics. They're a big part in understanding the world from religions and faith. They're a big part of understanding today's personal psychologies of people. And in these symmetries lies a natural balancing system over time. And behind that, the key to, once you understand this self-balancing aspect, you understand that everything comes and goes. What is my problem today, I am tomorrow. What was my enemy yesterday is my friend today. And in these changes of roles and shifts, we develop over time more compassion with each other and more compassion for each other, while at the same time staying who we are and going along with who we are.